everybody. It is Jenny J 1911. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I have a very special guest with me tonight. This is Chris Dover from CloverTac, and I am sure that most of you are familiar with him. He has so much content on YouTube, and he is what I think we all can aspire to be when we're getting on YouTube and figuring things out. He says no.
There are much better ways to do it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
go make cat videos or something. Yeah, seriously.
yeah. No, I don't think we don't have a cat, and there will be no cat videos.
Right.
Our cat days are over. So
Right.
yeah. So all right. Well, anyway, Chris, thank you so much for joining us
Yeah,
tonight
you bet.
and spending a little bit of time with us. And I'm going to kind of let you take a little bit of a lead tonight because you have so much stuff going through your YouTube channel. I mean, I just can't even begin to. There is one thing I really want to make sure that you talk about, and that is the video with the Civil War bullet.
No, yeah.
That is
With
so cool.
With the picture in it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty wild.
Yeah, I could riff on that story for a while in a couple different ways. So yeah, we'll try to hit on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right. So, Chris, we're going to get started with you just in case we have anybody that doesn't know who you are or what you're about. Tell me who you are and what your affiliation with the firearms industry is and how you got started.
Okay. Well, first of all, I will say that we don't share as much audience as creators in the same niche as we think we sometimes do. And so that's why it's very important to reach out to others, when we make these events and hang out and get to know each other and all this other kind of stuff is, um, yeah, it shares audience a little more because not everybody that watches your content is going to be into what I do, right?
Right.
We all kind of have our own little lane. With that said, a little bit on my background is, I guess one of the reasons you hear me talk all nerdy about the YouTube platform and that sort of thing is I do have a background in tech. I ran an IT business for about 20 years, 18 years, I think, and then sold that semi-retired is what my wife calls it. But lifelong firearm owner. Um, to the extent that when people ask what was the first, because this may be a question coming up, I'll go ahead and address it now. What was the first gun you ever shot? I envy the people that get into firearms at 20, 30, 40 years old because they remember. I don't have a clue. And the people that would know that are dead and gone at this point. I know some of the first. I know I was in the woods squirrel hunting by myself at roughly 9 or 10 years old. So been around firearms my entire life. No biggie there. And have been really active. I mean, helping out, knowing gun shop owners in the area, working gun shows, gunsmithing, reloading, just doing all of that through early years, teenage years, whatever, my entire life. And then it got to a point that some people were asking questions, and it wasn't an active thing to start a YouTube channel, but with my IT, my computer thing, I already had a YouTube channel to kind of help people along that wanted a video on how to do something or wanted me to show them. And that's the easy way to do it. And just made some videos. I can't remember, but Smith and Wesson, I can't even remember what model revolver and a couple things, changing some parts or doing some things. And the next thing you know, I mean, you start getting followers, you get views, people are watching. And then from that, it turned into kids. All my kids graduated. We're out of the house. Got the offer to, basically step away from the business and semi-retire, and was actually looking at running for political office, just to the peace. And during that time, that year, and I'd been kind of prepping for that as a business owner in town and in the area and stuff like that. You get to know a lot of people and that sort of stuff, and was sort of prepping for that years in advance. And so, had stepped away from the business, was sort of getting ready to file in November for that candidacy for that, and got, which you can't do this with SHOT Show now, but I was like less than 500 subscribers and got invited to SHOT Show and this other, and I was like, okay, where's this going? What's the potential of this? And so talked with obviously my family, talked with close friends and people that I trusted, and decided that I was still young, even though I am old, and that I could be 80 years old and run for JP. Why not, do this and give it a shot? Now, like everything else, um, when I go into something, I like to know what's going on. And so that was a New Year's resolution, one of the few that I've kept. Um, was, hey, if I'm going to do this, let me start learning how this works, right? I know the firearms, I know how to do things with firearms. That's not a problem. I know most of the tech as far as using the cameras and editing the video and uploading all that. But how do these platforms work and how do they change and what's going on and what are things that all creators face, not just gun tubers, right? And so that has led me down a road that's really interesting, um, because it's allowed me to work with YouTube. First of all, become acquainted with some folks that not just John and Jane and Bill in low tier customer support, but has allowed me to meet some actual policy specialists and the head of search and discovery for YouTube, for example, and some other folks. And even in Facebook, I had some pretty high end engineer contacts and stuff like that. And that's just being a part of the greater influencer creator sphere and hanging out in those communities, right? Not just the gun tuber side of things. And that's led into being able to work with YouTube on some different projects and do some different things, a lot of which I can't talk about publicly, but um, and really try to advance our cause. I mean, we've got troubles in the gun tuber community. You've already experienced those that we've talked about on the phone and an email. Um, and everybody out there that does firearm related content, at some point you're going to run into issues. And it's not the bias and the hatred for guns and the Second Amendment that a lot of people like to think it is. And that sounds good. And a lot of creators will whip their audience up in a frenzy, then go, YouTube demonetized me. They hate guns. Go over and donate to my Patreon or do this or do that. I want you to donate to my Patreon or become a channel member to help me do stuff on YouTube, because YouTube doesn't hate us. If they wanted us gone, we would have already been gone. Um, but they're beholden to uh, advertisers. They try to walk that happy line, but without advertisers we make no money on YouTube unless we do sponsorships or sell merch or something like that. And if they don't get money from advertisers, they can't keep the platform running, right? So it's the symbiotic relationship going on that it's been my goal, at least the last, I don't know, I'd say year and a half or 2 years, to try to find that middle ground as much as we can. um, and I get accused of being a traitor sometimes and an apologist for YouTube and stuff like that. And if you want to label me that way, I'm perfectly okay with that. And the reason is, unlike the Second Amendment, which restricts the government from infringing on our Second Amendment rights, YouTube can do whatever they want at the end of the day. They can literally hit a button and kick us all off if they wanted to. So it behooves us to find that common ground and stay on this platform, because there's no doubt if you're looking for maximum reach, YouTube is where it's at. You're not going to get that on a Rumble or an Odyssey or a YouTube or a Gunstreamer or GunTube or anywhere else. It's good to be on those other platforms that are alternatives and have a presence there. I'm a big believer in putting your eggs in multiple baskets, right? And it's, so you need to be there. But as far as YouTube's the king. So I guess that's A to Z pretty much where we are now.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know if you can see our side chat,
Mm-hmm.
Chris,
Oh yeah,
but
see a lot of friends out there actually.
I know, I'm so excited. So I'm gonna scroll back through here real quick and kind of give a shout out. I've got Reese. Reese is a good regular. Love seeing you here, Reese. Chris 338. Steven, good to see you. Hope you're doing well, Steven. Critter is here. Of course, his dog had to pee first. So, dog comes first, right, Critter? She fires. Brian made it from Brian's Custom Canvas. M1A2 Abrams Tank, good to see you. And Walter Bunning, I see, is in YouTube jail again. So maybe you can find out what's going on there, Chris.
Yeah, reach out to
um,
me.
yeah,
Get in touch with me.
exactly. So Stephen is one of those people that you mentioned earlier, Chris, that is maybe going to be a crossover for us. He said he hasn't heard of you yet. So this is somebody new.
Nice.
So Stephen, make sure you check his channel out because he's got lots of good stuff on there. So um Critter wants to know what part of Texas you're from.
East Texas, the absolute middle of nowhere. I mean,
Because Critter's
two
also
to
in Texas.
yeah, 2 to 3 hours from any major city easily.
Yeah.
No, an hour from any interstate.
Wow.
Yeah, county roads, 2 lane, lots of pine trees and woods.
That sounds
Um,
perfect.
yeah,
That's my kind of place.
middle of nowhere. Yeah,
Uh-huh. That's where I think
grocery
we probably
trips.
all aspire.
Quick milk, eggs, bread. That's
Yeah.
you're taking an hour out of your day to go to town to do that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
You make a list when you go, right?
Yeah, yeah, we usually hit that on the weekends, and yeah,
Uh-huh.
there's definitely a list that's made all week, and try to knock it out all at once.
Yeah, no kidding. So Santee TV, good to see you. And She Fires, if I didn't get that one. Michael Alsop is here again. That's awesome. So Chris, I want to go back a little bit. So do you have you obviously grew up shooting. So your family is also extensive in firearms, and it's just kind of it was normal in your family to have.
So yeah, a little bit too normal. That's where, if you follow me enough, I talk a lot about being, I call myself a FUD, and the full FUD life thing, and everything is something that come up, and that's mainly because I do. I like shotguns. I like lever actions. I like revolvers. Semi-autos are okay. ARs are okay. AKs are okay, but man, give me a nice stainless 6-inch 357 revolver, and I'll go to town. You know what I mean? So and that's what I grew up around. So that's
Yeah.
it's just part of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, almost too normal to the extent, and I'm glad you asked this because I kind of left something out in my journey there. That's rather important. But this was a good segue to that. Um, so my wife did not grow up in the same fashion I did. Um, she was introduced to firearms basically through me, and also to an extent through our kiddos, right?
Mhm.
Um, so um, what had happened is I got a call one day, being a known firearm. It's just a part of the culture around here, right?
Yeah.
And people always call you for advice on their guns or what to buy or whatever the case may be. So I get a call one day from the agricultural extension agent. This is also a good opportunity to plug 4-H shooting sports, because that's where I'm going with this. But I get a call, and he says, "Hey, and he'd never met me, and he said, "Hey, I heard you were the go-to guy with guns, and you had kids, and da 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 da, and there's this other guy that's wanting to start a 4-H shooting sports club in the county, and we see you posting on social media, you do these other things." Are you interested? And I said, well, let me talk to my kids, and see, and that sort of thing. So getting involved in that kind of drug my wife along. And I think that opened her up a little more when you get out on the range and you're sometimes out there with 200, 300, 700, 1,200 kids shooting guns. Um, the whole being scared of it minimizes that a little bit
Yeah.
when you've got 8-year-olds out there with revolvers and shotguns and everything else.
Yeah.
And you see that it's safe. You see that it's structured. You see that you harp on safety all the time. But no, started the local club. It went from that point. You had to go get coach training at the local level, to my youngest daughter getting really super involved in it, to the point that she got all the certifications for junior coach. And
Wow.
as I went and got these certifications as well, she tagged along. So she was. I think she was the first ever, I want to say, that had all 5 4-H disciplines, which is rifle, shotgun, pistol, archery, and muzzle loading. Um, I think she was the first kiddo in the state to ever get all 5 of those.
Wow.
Um, and then it more from there with me just managing the club and being a coach and all those disciplines and all that thing to the state. They seen my level of involvement as well as my youngest daughter's level of involvement. So it went to her becoming a state level ambassador in actually archery. That was probably her
Wow.
favorite discipline, to be honest. She shot them all, but she really enjoyed archery. And I do too, to an extent. And so that pushed me to move up to like an instructor level, right? To where I wasn't just a coach in all five disciplines, but now I'm an instructor to be able to train coaches in all five disciplines. So, um, and I can't believe I left that out because for 2 decades or something, I don't even know. That was a huge part of my life too, and a lot of where my training and background and stuff like that, especially with competition, came
Yeah.
from. So, but that was a transformation along the way, like I said, with my wife, and so two things with that. The first is seek out if you're interested in uh, a role like that. Contact usually your local agricultural extension agent or your county agricultural extension agent will work through a big university or something in your state. So it's usually pretty easy to find that office. And reach out to them and say, "Hey, I want to start a 4-H shooting sports club." It requires, or at least it did. I don't know current deals, but it takes like 3 kids from 2 different families is all it even takes to get things started.
Okay.
Um, and my youngest daughter, which she did a lot of other things. She was top 10 in her class, obviously with good grades and other things. But there's no doubt that she had a 5-year ride basically through college that was paid
Wow.
for through, and that's housing and everything.
Wow.
That was pretty much paid for. And 4-H was a big 4-H shooting sports in particular was a big part of that. So a
Yeah.
lot of opportunities, not
Yeah.
only to um, affect society, help the younger generations, and a
Mhm.
positive thing too, because a lot of people talk about millennials. You hear it, I'm sure, and snowflakes, and these kids are going to be the death of us, and all this. My experience, at least with the kids around here, and the thousands of kids I've seen in the 4-H program, we're in good hands in the future. All the kids I've seen are solid people,
Yeah.
well-rounded, solid people. I don't think we're going to have a problem. So it can be beneficial not just to the kids in your community, but you as well. You can get a lot out of it.
Right. Well, and I don't know if you know this, but I was actually a 4-H kid. So
Nice. I
I
wasn't. I
spent
was FFA.
Oh, okay. My school didn't have FFA. Now, when my dad was in school, he went to the same school that I went to. And when he was in school, they had FFA. But by the time I got to school, they didn't. But I did do 4-H for 10 years. And then I was an advisor for 4-H.
Nice.
But we were livestock. We didn't do any of the shooting stuff.
Well, that was one of the reasons I never went the 4-H route because FFA, you had all the welding and the metalwork and the other things. I never
Hmm.
was into animals and farm. My family farmed, right? Rural
Yeah.
area. I was always working in the fields as a kid and stuff like that. I'd garden and things like that, and we would have pigs or we would have this or that or the other. I had no interest. I think I raised chickens one year, quite honestly, and that was it. It was all I
Yeah.
did. So
Yeah.
I seen the 4-H as that's all that was. And then
Hmm.
once I was roped into 4-H, I mean, I literally 4-H, has the green injection, and I
Yeah.
would always talk about bleeding green. It's like I was an FFA kid, but I'm hardcore 4-H now. I'll sing the praises of 4-H all day because you can literally, and I'm glad you brought this up. You can literally start a 4-H club with anything you want to start it with:
Yeah.
quilting, cooking, robotics,
Mhm.
computers, shooting sports. Go to your county extension agent and say, "Hey, I want to start a club. I got some kids that's interested,"
Yeah.
and do it. And
Yeah.
4-H allows you to do that with any kind of hobby or skill or whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think 4-H is one of those things that teaches kids to be committed to something.
Hmm.
We talked on the phone earlier today, and I was saying how I feel like we live in a very disposable society where people just, quit something or they move on from something or they throw something away. And 4-H is one of those things, and probably FFA too, where, really teaches kids that they have to stay committed from start to finish.
Hmm.
And I think, it's a great program for anything that you decide to take into taken
Yep.
it. So,
Yeah.
now I want to go to Santee has a question and wants to
Oh.
know what your best gun show find is.
Oh, she really asked me.
I know that
Uh,
is a I don't think I could answer that either, but that's a tough one.
So I can't give you the best, Santee, and she can get on to me for that if she wants to. That's perfectly fine. I don't know that I can give the best off the top of my head because there's been so many, quite honestly. Santee showed up with us at the largest gun show in the world when we talk about um what was you going to ask me about? Oh, the bullet video. When we
The
talk about
bullet,
that
yeah.
later,
Yep.
the largest gun show in the world will come up again. But
Yeah.
Santee made that this last time, back in April,
Mhm.
and um, so I've made that show and a lot of other gun shows and everything else, and I'm always looking for the deals. So for you to ask me what the best deal is, I don't buy it unless it's a deal, and so it's hard for me to pick the best because. But I'll give you one. Um,
Okay.
I was looking for, actually looking for an infield, looking for um, a number 4 Zackerly contract infield for anybody that knows infields and what that is. Um, and actually ran across one at that show, and I'd already spent all the money I had with me, and I was like, man, and he had already marked the price down,
Oh,
and he was wanting to get rid of it, and it was in good shape. And I thought, man, I don't want to miss out on this. And
yeah.
thankfully, it was a younger guy, my age, or definitely, I would say, definitely younger than I was. And so I just asked him. I said, hey, if I stand here in front of you and PayPal you friends and family, can we do it that way? And he's like, sure, I don't have a problem. Now, some old geezer, 80-year-old geezer at a table, there wouldn't have been a chance of that.
No,
Uh, because I had some money sitting in PayPal. I just didn't have any, I didn't have any
Yeah.
cash. I'd already spent it all. That was on a Sunday evening, about an hour for the show closed, that I run upon that. Um, and so that was a great deal and an interesting story that, because we all know how PayPal is about firearm related stuff, but I actually paid for a gun with PayPal at a gun show. So that was kind of funny.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, you had said earlier to give you a revolver. I think you said a 357. Would that be your preferred gun to shoot?
Um,
Or does it depend on the day and the situation
it
and
totally depends on the day.
yeah, me too.
Um, so you're gonna find I'm way more, and this goes back to the 4-H shooting sports and just the hunting and the things like that. And just the area I live in, right? I don't
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about self defense. I really don't have to worry about self defense. And I get it with the people that do. They live in bad neighborhoods. They travel through bad neighborhoods. I don't. I don't
Yeah.
live in that world.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I make trips all the time. My wife and I drive to SHOT Show. I
Mhm.
drove back in March from here to South Carolina and back, and made two shows, the Shooting Sports Showcase and the Gathering. Um, and at no time have we ever been on the road. Went to Indiana a few years ago for NRA. We've had some long road trips, and I have
Mhm.
never once. I think we live in one of the safest times. I get it, crime's going up, whatever, but I still think we live in one of the safest times in the safest country, you know, on the planet. And I've never, and maybe it's situational awareness. I always go to that, right?
Right.
This is our number one defensive weapon is our is
Yeah.
our brain. So, if you're traveling through and somewhere around St. Louis, you're gonna have to get gas. Get gas before you run out in East St. Louis, right? Or
Yes.
South
Always do.
Central South Central Los Angeles, or South Side Chicago, or
Mhm.
make sure that you're fueled up and you don't have make sure your car is well maintained so you don't have to worry about breaking down in some weirdo
Yep.
stop. And just and accidents can happen and cars can break down, but we make sure to take the car in and get it tuned, tweaked, everything done before we head out on long trips and stuff like that. And you know yeah, just use your brain. Don't try not to put yourself into any situation that you don't absolutely have to be in.
Right.
So long way of saying that most of my favorites are not coming from a defensive category. So with the literally probably millions of rounds I've shot with 22, not only in my personal life, but 4-H and competition and all of that, 22 is my preferred caliber, without a doubt. I mean,
Yeah.
it's cheap, it's fun,
It's fun. Yeah.
you know, it rings steel just as good as anything else. It punches paper
Mhm.
just as good as anything else. If you want to go straight up precision, you may think I get a lot of hate on some videos in the comments, and we all get hate in the comments. Who cares? But
Yeah.
that when I talk about, oh, today we're going to shoot this at 50 foot, and they're like, oh man, I can shoot that at 50 foot. Really, really? You could hit a 10x bullseye, the exact width of a 22 bullet
Yeah.
at 50 foot. You
Yeah.
can seriously do that every single time. If you do, you need to start making YouTube videos and show us, because I can't do that. I've only perfectly punched an X a handful of times out
Yeah.
of millions of rounds fired. It's more difficult than it seems. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, that's like I did the Easter egg hunt video a few weeks ago, and one of the comments that I got on it was, well, you're like shooting that from 5 feet away. Like it's not a big deal. And I was like, do you not understand? I'm shooting Easter eggs. It's supposed to be fun and silly. It's
yeah,
not, I'm not out here trying to be a, long
hmm,
range marksman.
right,
It's
right,
just fun. And, really, I mean, yes, it's important to have, the ability to feel safe and secure and be able to defend yourself and your property. But, you know, the bottom line is firearms are just fun. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah. And
and
we've
there's
got to
nothing wrong
remember
with
that.
having fun with it. Nothing wrong with
There's
having
a
fun with it.
there's a really big, I think we've got momentum, and I think we got movement behind Second Amendment activism and advocacy right now. I think we're on,
Mhm.
a lot of times we don't celebrate the little wins along the way. We just look at,
Yeah.
and because negativity always gets the most publicity. Some Yahoo senator, congressman from some Yahoo state draws up some Yahoo anti-gun bill that'll never see the light of day, and that dominates YouTube channels and everything else. And it's like, meanwhile, this state's passing constitutional carry. This state's doing this. This is doing that, and it never gets talked about. And so, if
Right.
we add up all the little wins in the last couple of years or so, and we think about
Mhm.
coming out of COVID, coming out of the lockdown, and just people across the board, I think that are waking up to the idea of liberty and freedom, not just the Second
Yeah.
Amendment. Um, I think we've got some better days ahead.
Mhm.
Quite honestly. Um, but there's a place for. I guess what I'm saying is there's a place for all types of people under that 2A umbrella. You've
Mhm.
got competition shooters, you've got hunters, you've got those people that maybe they don't even own a gun. They just believe in individual liberty, right? It's
Right.
like, and
Yeah.
I'm totally okay with that. You can say I hate guns. I don't ever want to touch one. I don't ever want one in my house. But you know what? I'll fight to the death for your right to go out and shoot sporting clays or hunt or have one for self-defense.
Yeah.
I'm on board with that person. I don't have a problem. And so, there's so many things they talk about when you hear the anti-gun side, especially, right? They'll talk a lot about how, oh, gun owners, we've got the stereotypical white male, camo, whatever. Um, but then they'll also talk about how they fetishize firearms and this, that, and the other, and they amass all these firearms because they want to go out and they're just waiting to hurt somebody or whatever the case may be. And it's like, you don't think for a second maybe they amass firearms because they enjoy the beauty of the firearms. They understand the collectability and the investment of buying firearms. They
Right.
enjoy the engineering of firearms. There's just so many facets to
Mhm.
firearm ownership that I think a lot of times that gets overlooked, and that's also a part of the whole Fud Life project and stuff that I run too. Is I know you know the nomenclature a lot of times, or what you hear is. and for those that don't know the whole FUD thing, it's Elmer Fudd. It goes back to he's only worried about hunting with his shotgun and nothing else. So as long as they don't take away his shotgun. But, there are people that as long as they don't take away my AR-15, or as long as they don't take away this magazine, or as long as they don't restrict this right or that right, they're okay. I've had people willing to give up their Second Amendment rights to put a ban on gay marriage or get rid of abortion. They would literally give up their Second Amendment rights to do that. Well, that's a FUD, but that's not the same as what we think is a FUD. So they come in all shapes and sizes. And so I think we have to recognize that too, that, everybody has their own thing, and whatever you're into, hey, doesn't have to be my thing. I'm good with it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and, I feel like you said, I mean, that can come in all shapes and sizes. And one of the things that really interests me, because I'm a history person, I love, learning about the history of different shooting clubs and different ranges, and the history of guns, the history of ammo. I did the little video on the SWCs, and it's just interesting to hear how these places and these things were developed, and what path they've taken to get where they're at. And, there are so many aspects of firearms and shooting sports that draw people in. And,
right. Yeah.
But we're all, at the end of the day, we're all in that same world, right?
Well, hopefully we get people to, and you can't expect somebody to be there instantaneously. I mean, I'm a lifelong firearm owner, and I haven't been into the liberty and rights thing my entire life. I didn't come out of the womb that way or anything. And then people are also busy with lives, and some work 2 or 3 jobs, and just all the other things that go on. We've had a large influx of firearm owners, and like your channel is of course evidence of this too. We've had a lot of people turning on the camera, which I've advocated for many, many years. Turn on the camera, let your voice be heard. One more voice does not hurt us in any way. And it's great, but then at the same time, we've got the old guard, the people that have been around the 2A community for a long time, that go, oh, they're coming in and they're firearm owners, but they're pro gun, but they're not pro 2A. It's like, well, give them time. I get it. I get that you're worried we don't have time, but you got to let them come to that, and you got to help them I think in a positive, reassuring, supportive way, come to that realization. Just shouting them down and go, well, you've got that new gun, now you need to go give money to this organization, and you need to come down to this rally, and you need to go testify before your state legislature, and heaping all these things on them, right? It's like, ease them into it. Let them get. We all know that firearm ownership is addicting. Shooting firearms is addicting. Sporting clays, target shooting, whatever the case may be. That's why some of us amass, more than just a few firearms. And just let them get into it, and they'll eventually, I think they'll eventually see the light. Most of them will.
Well, and I think too, if anybody's been paying attention, it seems like so many states are passing constitutional carry now.
25 now.
And I really feel like, this is a good direction, and it's snowballing favorably. And, hopefully that's something that people will start picking up on too, and having an appreciation for. And, I think sometimes it's hard for people to stand up and voice their opinions or support something if they feel like they're the only ones. But as this gains popularity, or get a little more, I don't know, press, people start seeing, okay, it's okay, these states are doing it, and it's okay for us to start expressing support for this. And it would be nice to see more states follow that path. So, and when that happens, then of course it'll draw more people in. They'll feel like there's not this, I feel like a lot of people sense a negative stigma when it comes to gun rights or gun ownership or whatever, and they don't want to be categorized as one of those people,
It,
so it
yeah,
helps
I
give
think that,
us a little bit more leverage to be able to, you know,
yeah,
welcome more people in.
I think that applies to labels in general. I hate
Yeah.
labels, right?
Yeah.
Are you a conservative or a liberal? Are you a
Yeah.
Republican or a Democrat? Are you a this or a that? It's like, I'm me. It's like the
Right.
whole idea of this country, in case you didn't know, was the individual and the individual spirit and individual liberty.
Yeah.
If you're a Christian, the whole idea of that is individual salvation. So, you know,
Yeah.
eh, not pushing religion on anybody. I'm just saying the whole idea of individuality is a long running thing. Um, and so, yeah, with that in mind, don't put me in a box. If I want to put me in a box, that's one thing. But I think all too often we do, and I think that what happens is you have people that can't separate it out. I
Hmm.
get it that your religion or your belief system in general, maybe it's not even religion, may not align with gay rights,
Hmm.
but you should stand shoulder to shoulder with that gay person to defend your Second Amendment rights because that has nothing to do with them being gay. Just like it
Right.
has nothing to do with them being a Democrat or a liberal or a conservative or pro abortion or whatever else it might be that you don't agree with.
Yeah.
So, learn to compartmentalize a little bit, I think
Yeah.
is what folks have to do.
Yeah.
We don't have to agree 100%. We're never going to agree on
Yeah.
100%.
And
And
we
if we
shouldn't.
spend up all of our time trying to agree
Yeah.
100%, something that will never happen, well,
Right.
that's the definition of insanity. So we need to put that energy into something else.
Right. Well, and I mean, think about, I don't know, think about communities where everybody is all the same and has all the same thoughts. That's not what we want, right? We want to be able to
No,
have our
no.
differences, and that's what makes the world go round, really.
Well,
So,
just like I may want my revolvers and you may want your semi-automatics, right? I mean, we have our own rifts inside the community. It's no
uh-huh.
different outside. There's no difference.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna scroll over these comments because I always get a little behind on the comments. I get so
Everyone
wrapped up.
does.
I know, I get
Everyone
so
does.
wrapped up in my conversation, and I see that I see some new names actually. EVS says women power. Jenny elbow cough.
Been a
I
lot
appreciate
of
that,
women.
EVS, and welcome to the show. So let's see. Oh, I must have missed something because Brian's custom canvas is talking about tannerite. So there must have been some explosive comments earlier. I don't know.
Sometimes out there they do get into their own conversations.
Yeah.
Sometimes that'll throw you for a loop too. You're like,
And
what were they
that
talking
is
about out there?
that is what I love so much about the live chats, because it is just such a family and community feeling. I love how every time I start a live chat, I have my people that come on here and they greet each other, and they call each other the crew or the J crew, and it's just they have all got their own little family atmosphere over here in the side chat, and it's always just really cool to see to see all of that. Now Reese, he does want an explanation or a definition for addictive. He says his gun safe needs an explanation.
Let's see.
I'm not sure I can give an explanation
I
on
think
addictive.
I think that if you have a safe and not a safe room, you got to pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers. So that's my opinion on that. So
That's true. Yeah. I actually, my husband knows somebody that built a house with a safe room underneath the house for
yeah,
all of his firearms. And there was actually like he had some special ventilation system or something in case the house caught on fire and everything else. Like there were all these,
yep.
safety things put into place, and that's the way to do it.
I've seen some stuff with ranges built into their house, in the basement. Not
Uh-huh.
only do they have their safe room and all that, but they actually have a range down there and a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah.
If only I had access to unlimited funds.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
come on YouTube, all right?
here's my question. I'm just wondering, is there ever any gun owner or person who is, really into this? Do they ever have enough money? Are we all poor because we
Oh,
just funnel all of our money into this hobby?
you gotta spend it on something.
That's
You
right. You
have
can't take it
to.
with you when you go.
You have to. You have to spend it on something. And it's like I said earlier. I mean, a lot of people they overlook the investment aspect of it. So, you know, um, in addition to insurance, in addition to life insurance policies, things like that,
Hmm.
when I'm dead and gone, I mean, my family goes in there, they pick out a few that they want and they sell the rest. And that's just, they can throw a big party, go on a big vacation, buy a new house, well, whatever. Right. And a
Yeah.
lot of that is set forth. And that's the thing. If you do get into the collectability, the investment thing, you want to keep records. You want to make sure you have your living wills and your lawyers draw your stuff up and do everything right because we never know when our time comes, of course. But
Yeah.
have all that lined out. That way, your family does know what to do in that case. But one thing that I that I chuckle, my wife and I, we always almost a week doesn't go by that this topic doesn't come up. But and you being a woman and you being married, maybe you
Uh-huh.
understand you understand where I'm coming from and what I'm saying. But I'm often around guys, whether it's at the local gun shop or it's here online that goes something about, oh, I would buy that new gun, but I'd have to try to sneak it home, or I'd buy that gun, but I would I'd have to just if my wife's seen it, I'd have to tell her that oh, I've had that for years. I can go buy 12 or 15 or 20 at one time and bring them home, and my wife's not going to say a single solitary thing. Why? Because she knows when I'm dead and gone. It's money. It's
Well,
money.
I
It's
so
money you can enjoy
sure.
while it's here is the thing. Like if I had
Yeah.
a bunch of gold and silver, which everybody needs a certain amount of gold and silver and things like that. But what am I
Yeah.
going to pull like a Scrooge McDuck and swim around in it or something? I mean,
Yeah.
you're not going to
Yeah.
enjoy that. You can enjoy
Well,
your firearms.
I've been to a lot of gun shows where I see the sign that says for an extra $5, I'll write up a receipt that you can give your wife that shows,
Right.
a different amount. And I
Right.
always look at my husband and I say, "You're a lucky guy because I'm the
Yeah.
one going, "Hey, why don't we get this one? You should get this one." I mean, I'm never going to say no to something. In fact, we went into a gun shop one time and we saw a U Birdie. It was a beautiful little gun and he was looking at it and I saw him looking at it and I said, "Just get it." He was like, "Oh, I don't
Right.
know. Just get it. If you don't get it, you're going to walk away. And you know what happens when you look at a gun and you walk away? Somebody
Mhm.
else snatches it up."
Yeah.
So, we ended
What?
up getting it. And I mean, it's just one of those things where I don't think you can ever have too many. And I'm right there with him.
Yeah.
I enjoy looking at them and picking them up and um he just passed me a note that said, "In that case, I'm ordering a Colt."
There you go. I approve of that. Let's do
Yep,
it.
there you go.
Let's do it. I expect I
Yeah,
expect to see I expect to see a receipt before we get off live. You need to go get that done. Um,
exactly.
yeah, I mean, I think that when you run into people like that, sometimes I've
Yeah.
got to wonder. And again, I don't want to project anything on somebody. I don't like labels, but I've got to wonder if that maybe say it's just a different type of relationship. Maybe that person
Yeah.
is not very good with money because I think my wife knows if I bring something home, it's not like our kids didn't have diapers or we didn't have food on the table or the bills weren't paid, right? It's like
Right.
it's not like that money I was taking money from something like that and and buying a firearm with it.
Right.
Um, so in that context, there probably are some people that do things like that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. And I wasn't into firearms until I met my husband, and I grew up around them, but they were just kind of commonplace. They were
Hmm.
they were necessary living on a farm because there were always critters that, shouldn't be there. And
Had a
I
possum in a
never
trap today, as a matter of fact.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I
I
just let him
just
go, but yeah, he was. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, my in-laws actually have been having a skunk issue. They keep
Oh,
getting
that's not
skunks
good.
in a live trap, and that's a whole other that's a whole other ball game. But I didn't get into firearms as something fun until I met my husband, and then it was like, oh, we can go to the range and we can just, you know, hit a target and challenge each other. I mean, we're both a little competitive and our kids are competitive, so it works for us. I mean, and I really feel like the family that can shoot together can be really, really solid. I feel like
I
there's
think
something
so.
about it that helps forge something more foundational and deeper. Um, and I don't know exactly what that is, but I just feel like it's a really great thing for a family to do together too,
Right. Well,
which
I
is
think
probably
it.
also why the 4-H thing works out so well.
Yeah, I think it gets into maybe the seriousness of it, because it's like we were talking about earlier with, you know, declaring certain things on YouTube and whatever. I mean, let's face it, firearms
Mhm.
are they can be harmful or dangerous. I mean, we preach safety
Right.
all the time. Number one, the first thing.
Yeah.
And so, we have to acknowledge that. And because it's that way, we're a little more careful, we're a little more focused, we're a little more zoned in. And I don't know, maybe that has something to do with it, that because there's so much focus in the activity, that other
Mhm.
things, the getting together, the family time, that's just all of that stuff's amplified because of that, maybe.
Right. Yeah. Now, I will say on the flip side of that coin, I'd like to read Critter's comment. He said he fixed his money problems, actually, Chris. He got rid of the wife.
Oh yeah, no,
So,
I would starve to death, and yeah,
I
no,
mean, if that's the
my house
issue,
would be terrible because I'm super friggin' messy. And I'm not gonna say I don't clean when she tells me repeatedly to go clean this and do that. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't do it otherwise. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah. 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 Let's see. Oh, Tim S joined us. Good to see you here. Let's see. Oh, Michael Dunn says, I'm afraid when I die, my wife will sell all my guns for what I told her.
Yeah.
He must have told her that they were worth a little less than they
Well,
actually
yeah, that's
were.
why you need to keep records. And I would advise even lining out a few gun shops ahead of time, a
Yeah,
few, because you never know what's going to go out of business, or whatever the case
sure.
may be. But line out a few and say, hey, here's here's what I've got going on, and if that happens, I want you to consign these or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Bending Ballistics, good to see you. Bending Ballistics has been showing up a lot to our most recent lives. And he says, let's Hulk smash that like button, everybody. So
Hmm.
good call on that. Thank you so much for reminding. I always forget. I never remember to tell people to like anything. And
People
so,
know that honestly by now, or they should.
yeah, they should. But I mean, how many times, like, I'll sit down and watch a YouTube video and I forget to hit the like button. I get so
Yeah, all
engrossed
the
in what's
time.
happening,
Yeah.
that I forget too. So it just happens.
Yep. I'll tell you the
um,
big thing though, for that is
uh-huh.
that for those that go to their YouTube homepage on a regular basis, you're starting to see it happen for a while. You may watch a video from somebody or even the live stream, and you'll get a rating thing. It'll say, "Did you enjoy this video?" And then it'll have a star rating. And then when you do that, it'll give you, "Did you find this informative, insightful, inspirational, educational?" Fill those out,
Yeah.
because those go a long way to YouTube promoting channels and videos more. when you
Yeah.
actually fill those out. So take the time, guys, if you see those, and fill those out for
Okay.
sure. Super
Yeah.
important.
I don't think I've actually seen one of those yet. So if I
Okay.
do, I'll make sure and
I
you
got one
know.
today, and it wasn't even on a. I don't watch gun content. Is the least genre of things I watch on YouTube. Um, honestly, so I got one today, but I think it was on something about the physics of space or something. Just something
Oh
scientific.
wow. Oh wow. That's cool.
Yeah.
So Walter Bunning says we have to change my channel. I'll have to change my channel name to Jenny Python. I actually
Yeah.
commented on that earlier. I said, I've really gotten into revolvers too. And so I was like, what am I going to call myself? Like I'll have to do a spin-off Jenny Revolver. I mean, that just doesn't have the
It
same
doesn't
ring
have the
as
same ring. Yeah, it
no.
doesn't. It
And
doesn't.
yes, Michael Dunn, I promise you it is ice and water. Again, I have to teach tomorrow, man. I have to drink ice and water.
Okay.
They're always accusing me of what I have in my cup. So let's see. Looking to see if we have any questions that we need to. Yeah, Chris 338, skunk in a live trap is bad. Very
You
true.
need
They live
a
on a cattle farm, so they should
daytime
have it open.
and a blanket.
Yeah,
I've never once gotten sprayed by a skunk in a live trap. And use a
knock on wood.
blanket. Stand behind the blanket. Do it in the daytime.
Uh-huh.
Walk very slowly up over it behind the blanket. Of course, that way if they spray, at least you've got something.
Yeah.
Lower the blanket down over them. Grab the handle, pick it up, put it in the back of the truck. Do the same in reverse once you get him
Yeah.
off somewhere. And yeah, knock on wood wherever there's wood.
Yeah,
I've
exactly.
never been sprayed. It's worked. That's what my grandpa taught me, the way he taught me to do it. And I've never been sprayed.
Oh my. Well, fortunately, where I live, we don't have to worry about skunks, but we have a lot of rabbits in our yard. It's kind of weird. We live in a subdivision, but we
Oh,
have
that's yeah,
so many
we do
rabbits
too.
here. It's just
We do too.
unbelievable.
And
Yeah.
I don't mess with them. I tell people that's my coons and my rabbits. We don't mess with them. And
Yeah.
people like, well, why not? And I'm like, because as long as they're not bothering anything, that's my post-apocalyptic food supply. It's like they'll
Let
breed,
them breed.
they'll breed, they'll be here, and if the world falls apart, I got food, buddy. So,
That is very true. That is a
and
great point.
especially if you could trap the rabbits, because rabbits, we all know how rabbits breed, right? So,
Yes,
if you could trap the
absolutely.
rabbits and pin them up, then you would really have a post-apocalyptic food supply at that point.
Yeah. Very true. All right, Boogie Nights Vintage. Hey, good to see you. Thanks for the hello. Let's see. Uh
Well, we got to get to
well,
the bullet story. Don't forget about
yes,
that one.
exactly. So yeah, so I don't know if any of you have not checked out CloverTac's channel. So Walter Bunning says that he just subbed to your channel, CloverTac. So you got
I
at
don't
least
offer a
one
money
member.
back guarantee, Walter. I'm sorry. So just put that out
So
there.
yeah, so I was watching some of your videos, and one that popped up was you had gone. I'm pretty sure it was Tulsa, right?
What's
You
the
were in
Tulsa
Tulsa,
show? Right.
and you came across or you knew this guy, and he showed you this bullet from the Civil War, and I'm gonna let you tell about it, and then I want to hear from you if you've ever seen any other interesting bullets like that.
Okay. So, like that as a quick answer is no.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting bullets or whatever ammunition. Yes, and
Yeah.
from that guy. Um, so backstory on that. Wanamaker Tulsa Arms Show, largest gun show in the world, every April, every November. Put that on your bucket list, and once you go once, you'll probably go every single solitary time.
Yeah.
Um, but um, met that gentleman maybe the first show I ever attended years ago, and he's an ammunition collector and very
Mhm.
knowledgeable in a lot of things. And I'm like, hey, do you got anything you want to do a video? Can we do a video on? Because this stuff's cool. And he talks not only about the bullet, but about the guns that fire the bullets and other things. Um, and so he was like, yeah. And so now every single show he lines out beforehand. He's already come up with a couple of things, he's going to show and tell and talk about. And yeah, that particular one, I don't remember the name of what he called it now,
Yeah.
but um, it was not. it was not anything rare at the time for people to put little bitty microscopic pictures in things. They would do it in pocket watches and knives and other things, but these were actual bullets from the Civil War era. So it's interesting that these bullets, and you kind of hold them up like a, what's the thing where you put the discs in back when we were
The
kids with
little
shuffle
viewfinder.
or little
Yeah.
viewfinder things or
Hmm.
whatever. It's almost like that. You hold it up to the light and look through the end of the bullet, and you can see the picture in there. And they would
Uh-huh.
have battlefield images. He said they would have, scantily clad women picture, their girly pictures in there, or whatever. But it's amazing that during Civil War times they had the technology to put such a small picture in a, even in a bullet like that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, he showed me a lot of stuff. Um, he's got some different things. One of the ones was a rifle that was it had a revolving five. It had 5 tubes, 10 rounds per tube. That was a revolving cylinder that fed through the stock of this rifle. It's another video on the channel. Um, and so it would rapid fire 50 rounds. Like we talk
Wow.
about this whole assault weapon thing, and oh, the old time people couldn't envision, rapid fire. Really? Because this was 50 rounds, you could cut off 50 rounds pretty quick with that rifle for sure. And this was Civil War, maybe even shortly before.
Yeah.
Um, so there's that one. That one was pretty cool. He's had some stuff from some rare Gatling guns. He's had some stuff from like some artillery type rounds from the day,
Mhm.
and different things. There's just so much. I like it. Like I said, every time we've gone, um, and I don't even know how to tell people to look those up. Probably if you go to playlist on the channel, you'll
Mhm.
find playlists from the show. I usually put a playlist together for videos each time I go to the show,
Yeah.
and so I'd say check out those, and you can probably find them. They're pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And the one from with the little picture in it just fascinated me because, like you said, the fact that they had I don't know, I don't know if you could use the word technology, but the capability
Whatever it was,
to
yeah,
do that exactly. I
yeah.
mean, it's just incredible. I liken it to, when you go to like Disney World and they paint your name microscopically on a little piece of rice.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I don't know if you've seen that,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's the same thing. It's like how do people do this? I
yeah.
mean, and for them to have done that long
100,
ago, it's just
160 years ago. Yeah,
yeah, it's just really cool to think that
yeah.
they were it seems like such a, I don't know, kitschy thing to do that, the fact that they were doing it even then is just really
Right.
incredible. So,
Yeah.
yeah, but it was cool when I saw you in the video holding that up like that, and I mean it looks like a hollow point, and
It
it's just
does. I thought that's what it was when he first brought it out. He said, "I got this
yeah.
for you right here," and I
Uh-huh.
don't, I don't never know, I don't ever know what he's got until I click the camera on and hit record, right?
Oh wow.
And so he pulls it out. He said, "I got this like here," and I'm like, "Oh, that's bigger than the other one we looked at before." And I thought that's like an old hollow point of some kind.
Right.
Was my initial thought. And he's like, "Yeah, if you
Mhm.
hold it up, it's got a picture in it." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah.
Like, no way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that was my thought. I was just like, it looks like a hollow point, but then yeah, and it showed the picture of like I think it was a battle scene,
Some
right? And the guy
battle.
was
Yeah, it was some battle
falling.
scene.
The guy was
Yeah.
there was a guy falling over, and I mean, it was
Yeah,
just a pretty
the
intricate
battle in
little
the
picture.
clouds. I think he said that was some battle in Tennessee, I want to say,
Yes,
he
yep, I
said.
think you're right. I
Yeah.
think I remember that. Yeah,
Yeah.
so crazy. Um, Boogie Nights, I have to say, I'm going back to a comment that Boogie Nights made. They bought two old Vaqueros at the Fort Worth Gun Show this last weekend.
Nice.
That's a nice find. We cannot find vaqueros in this area for anything. We can find you birdies, but we can't find vaqueros. So
So, interestingly enough, um, this conversation just got off of I was in Ghost Tactical's chat before I come into here,
uh-huh.
for a little while, about 45 minutes or so. And he had Chase from EAA on there, and Chase was talking about the revolvers that EAA imports from a company called Rock out of Germany. And he's like, we can't get enough revolvers into the country. He said, we don't know what's going on, but people
Huh.
are like revolver crazy right now.
Wow.
And so there you go. That explains why you probably can't find any.
So, so why is that? What I mean, what would your supposition be? I wouldn't even know how to explain that.
I I think you've got a large influx of people that come in, and I honestly think you've got people starting to get other things that notice that other things are out there.
Mm-hmm.
And there is, not that there's not beauty in a nice SIG or a nice CZ or a nice
Sure.
1911, but
Right.
it's just a different type of intrinsic beauty in a revolver. And there's
Mm-hmm.
the history there. You're talking about a design that is, you know, well over 100 years old, 150,
Right.
60 years old. If you're talking about black powder, even a little bit older than that, and
Mm-hmm.
125, 130 years probably on, smokeless on things like double action revolvers,
Yeah.
even just the
Yeah.
technology. And it hasn't really changed that
Well,
much.
and I can tell you as a reloader, the one thing we really love is the fact that we don't have to catch our brass.
This is
When
true.
when
This
we're
is true.
using a revolver,
Yeah.
we know right where our brass is at, and
Hmm.
it's so easy. So we're
This is
never
true.
scrabbling around on
Um,
the floor looking for it.
and specifically with 38 357
Hmm.
interchangeability, right, with
Right,
ammo right now. If you
right,
get a 357, if you find 38, buy 38 and take it to the range and plink around. If there's 357 that you find and no 30, you have a little bit of an option there, at least
right.
with 357 revolvers. So that could
Well,
be part of it as well.
and we do have our Black Hawk, of course, is convertible, so we are also able to put nines in ours. We
Nice.
have a cylinder for nines, so
Right.
one gun can shoot three different calibers, and that's pretty convenient too. So yeah,
Yep.
it's I don't know. There's
Yep.
just something fun though about shooting a revolver. I don't know what it is. I prefer, I don't know. I always say I prefer one over the other, but then when I'm shooting the other one, I like that one better. So
Yeah,
it
I
just
like
depends on
whatever
which
I'm
one's in
shooting
my
at the
hand.
time. Yeah. My favorite's whatever I'm shooting at the time. Most
Yep,
of the time,
exactly.
quite honestly. Now, I will say this about revolvers. When you're talking about the Vaquero, the old school single action army cowboy revolvers, big, huge front blade, gutter receiver sights in the back. I am not proficient in any way, shape, form, or fashion with those. So if I'm hitting 6-inch steel at 15 yards, I'm talking about I am tearing it up
Yeah.
with those. I am not proficient at all. Um, so, I do gravitate more to something like a Blackhawk that's got more modern sights,
Hmm.
or a more modern double action or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hate to end this party because I have thoroughly loved this conversation, Chris, and I don't know if there's anything else you want to tell our audience before we
Not really.
start saying our goodbyes, but
Not really.
well,
I can't think of anything.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, and always you're always welcome to come if you think of something. I'm pretty sure that I would get a resounding yes from everybody in the side chat that we'd love to have you back again sometime. And
Yeah.
so anytime you're free, and we will get to meet in Houston hopefully in a few weeks. I am so excited and so looking forward to that. And
Yeah, I
I've
think
been
you'll
telling
enjoy that.
everybody, anybody that is there, make sure they come and find me, introduce themselves, and we can put some faces and names
It's
together. So
it's a little early, so spoiler alert, but it's there's only a few. Uh, it's not like thousands of people are gonna know this,
yeah.
but yeah, if you're gonna be there, an easy place to find me is 2 o'clock on Saturday. I will be in the EAA booth. So,
Okay.
and I'm gonna put that out a little closer to time, and not. They asked me if I would come do a booth appearance. I'm not anybody special, but I'm gonna do it because that's a place that I'll be in one spot, and then so
Uh-huh.
because when you get to these shows, you do a lot of running around, and sometimes they're
Right.
overwhelming, and then you get things scheduled, and you've got your to-do list, and you've got all this other stuff. So
Hmm.
it is nice to have that one location, that one time. But
Yeah.
yeah, I want to do. I'm not doing my podcast until after NRA. I'm going to use that
Okay.
opportunity to line up some more industry guests, some more 2A activists,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
advocate guests and things like that. And I want to have you on that after NRA
Cool.
to kind of get your idea. I want to specifically talk about your first time with NRA and your experiences
Uh-huh.
there, and I think we'll go down that road. So be
Yeah.
prepared for that.
Okay, I'm ready. Reese is asking where in Houston, I'm guessing for the NRA. So it's at the George R. Brown Convention Center.
Hmm.
Huge convention center. I've never been there before, but looking at the pictures, it's right
Pretty
smack
big.
dab in the middle of everything.
Yep.
And it looks like a very ginormous and nice convention center to get to hang out for a weekend. So
Right.
that's where we'll be. That's where we'll be hanging out. Smeggy42 says that they will allow you back, Clover, if their vote counts. So I'm gonna say yes, Smeggy, your vote counts.
No way.
So everybody says yes. So we are going to go ahead and sign off. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or send me that email. You all know where to find me, jennyj1911@usa.com. And make sure you are heading over to CloverTac's channel. Check him out. And he's got lots and lots of different things. So it will keep you busy for a while. So I want to thank you, Chris, very much for
You
being
bet.
on
It's been fun.
and sharing some time and some thoughts with us. And it's been a lot of fun. So if you want to hang out for a minute, and we will tell everybody goodbye. Thank you so much for coming. Everybody have a great night, and I can't wait to talk to you all again soon.